Hi everyone, I'm Wen-chin, and thank you for Lamlai and the Sony Ecology Conference inviting me to share my instrument sound and inspired by the environment. And for me, the challenge of this subject is to realize and understand what exists already and what can I do and what can I explore more. So today I'm going to talk about the subject thinking sound in materials and environments, and I will be talking mostly two instruments project I made. One is the sugar instrument Tang, and the other one is Hague project in Malta. And before I go into that, I want to briefly talk a little bit about my background. I was trained in classical music as a musician. I played cello and piano. And after that, I went to Holland to study in ArtScience. In there, I learned to start with a concept and finding out how to make instruments or how to explore a concept. And later, I went to the music theater, and in music theater, I combined my background as a performer and a maker together. And then my relation with instruments. First of all, I was practicing a lot, almost every day practice. So my relation with instrument is really daily life. And then when I start in ArtScience, I start exploring the possibilities of playing instruments. For example, I played cello for many years. I use my hands to play cello. And then I was like, okay, what do I do with my feet? I can maybe also play with my feet. So I built an instrument called body cello, which I made a string, the bridge from the string instrument I put in my feet, so I can play the whole instrument with my body. And you see underneath, I also make sound box. So then the instrument is really a self-contained within my body. And after that, I start experimenting with different materials, for example, like sugar and clay. I will first play a short part of this body cello. Okay. Now I'm going to talk the first instrument, sugar instrument, Tang. Where I made this instrument, I made this instrument in Taiwan and in Chaotou. Chaotou is a village in Kaohsiung, and Kaohsiung is the second big city of Taiwan. So Chaotou is a village, and there's an old sugar refinery. It's closed now, and then when I was there, I realized the people in Chaotou, the whole neighborhood, they are really connect with the sugar factory, because in the old days, sugar factory was very important as one of the industry in Taiwan. So there are train passing by transporting factory clothes. They built a museum so people can still go there to see how sugar being made and all the activity related to sugar. I was there doing an artist residency. And so I in the Baiwu, that's the name of this artist residency. So when I was there, I thought, okay, I always start with sound. So what should I make with sound? And then maybe I can do something with sugar, since the whole neighborhood, inhabitants of so have correlation. That's the whole experiment starts with how to make sugar sound. During the process, at the beginning, I remember, maybe some of you know, this BB candy you see on the top. So with this candy, because the sugar is hard and you blow through the hole in the middle, then you can make different pitch. So I thought, okay, this candy, they have sound. Then maybe I can also make some other sugar sounding. So during the experiment, I test all different stage of sugar. And then between the hard boil stage and soft crack stage, which is between 128 and 135 Celsius, in there, I cook the sugar until that moment, and then I cool it down a little bit. I stir it, stimulate the crystallization process, and then I pour the sugar from the pot into a mold. And then, because when into the mold, all the heat evaporates. When the heat evaporates, they leave the holes in the sugar. So what you see now, all the sugar you see on the screen, they all have small holes, and that's how when the heat evaporates, they leave the holes inside. Then that creates a resonance for the sound, so the sound can travel, and that's how the instrument sounds. And the problem with that's a problem, but the effect of this kind of instrument is it's only survive once. Because when you start playing it, it starts cracking, and then eventually it's break. I'm going to show a short video about the process of making. So this shows a little bit with the process. So you can see in the video of how the heat evaporates. And now I'm going to show a short example of what I mean when it's only survived once as a sugar instrument in the performance setup. So it's played by a percussionist. I will show a few parts. It's a long one, so I should only show a few parts, and you can hear how the sound change until the end. So then when it's break, then that's the end of the sugar, these sugar instruments. So from sugar instruments, Tang, I got approached by a foundation in Malta called Gabriel Corona Foundation. And this foundation, they are dedicated in ceramic art because the founder is a well-known ceramic artist in Malta. When he died, his daughter take over. Her name is Raphael. She took over the foundation, and she's an environmentalist and also an arts curator. So they approached me to have to start a project called Hos Il Se. It's in Maltese, so name means sketch sound. And the Gabriel Corona Foundation, they have a location in Via Chicara, that's in Malta, and it's an old mill, and they renovate that to become an art center. And these are the space inside. So when they approached me, we asked like why we are making this project together. So first she was telling me, in Malta, there used to be 69 mills, but nowadays there are only 2 mills left with wings. The mills disappearing. So the function of the mills, it used to be they make flour, they make bread. And nowadays people buy bread in the supermarkets and the bread being mass produced. That's also one of the reasons the mills slowly disappearing. At the same time, when you also need wheat to make flours. So when the local farmers stop producing bread, and then the matter of the reason of growing wheat, the wheat to make flour, it's a bit less in the function, but at the same time, the wheats are very important for the crop rotation because wheat have certain nutrition which can hold the soil in a good structure. Then, so for the soil, it's really important in the rotation. You also have wheat. So what happened with some of the wheat? Then wheat mixed together with hay becomes the food for animals. So with this kind of combination, and with the Gabriel Corona Foundation, which they work with clay. So that's the idea starts forming with what can we do with clay and with hay and wheat together. So the process is we mix the hay and wheat, because the hay and wheat, they contain cellulose fibers. So we mix the hay and wheat together with clay with a ratio of 5:1 and 5:2. And for me, it also was the first time I working with clay. So I work with the artists together there. And then I learned with the clay, you have different stages. And then with this one, we use the stoneware clay. And then we have the last part, you see the biscuitware. So that's the firing part. We fire until 1,250. So then the clay become really hard. And what happened while we mix with the hay and wheat? Because what I say here, and wheat contains this cellulose fiber, and this fiber burns out after 700 Celsius, which means when we mix with the clay, when the fiber burns out, that leaves holes in between the clay. So it depends on the ratio. When we have 5:1 or 5:2, when there's more holes in between the clay, the pitch at the end when we play, it's higher. And then when there's more holes, and then the pitch goes lower. So this was a kind of fast results we got, because the format of this project is really start with a residency. So I was there working with the artists and knowing Malta a bit. And then we make a lot of workshops, in total around 35 workshops for kids and adults to make all the instruments. Then we present that in the exhibition. And the exhibition is in the Ziguzai Children Festival in Malta. The experience what I have with this project is like when the concept would start with relate to the local environment, and then we find the material which relate to this change of the environment, and then we bring the sound and the structure of instruments into an art practice. So now I'm going to show you a slide plus the video about the process I was just talking about. So this is the studio we work in Malta, the ceramic studio, and we collect the hay and wheat from the farmer, local farmer, and we cut it and then shred it and soak in the water, and then into different portions. And with this, that's a sleep stage. So it's still wet, and this we start to mold that, and then, in principle, I just make that as a circle. And this is a bone dry state before it's going to firing. So when it's getting really hard, then we go to the kiln, and this is after the fire, after the kiln. And you see there's then we see the trace of when the hay and wheat burns out. And this is in the exhibition. So the exhibition have 4 parts, and in this exhibition, we try to bring back the playfulness of the clay, and also the awareness of the disappearing of the mills and the combination of the hay, wheat, and clay. So in this exhibition, a lot of the installation is interactive. So for example, this flower, when you play around, there's sensor attached to the clay, then the flower seed goes up or down, depends. And then also under all these clay, there are different sensors, so it triggers the shape. So it depends what kind of which plate you play. You can create your own composition with this abstract shape. And the last part with this tower, it's kind of a symbol of the disappearing of the mills. And then underneath, there's some lines that is referred to kind of wheat and hay. So when you play around, it's also interactive. You get more or less of these lines. So then maybe you are curious a bit. So what's the difference in this sound? So I'm going to play. So the first I play with the 5-1 ratio. So 5 clay and 1 hay and wheat mix. And then 5-2. So these are kind of still with this instrument is still in the development. So it's not yet like ready instruments, but it's just a kind of the still the first step of maybe make that more refined and in the future. So for me, the future challenge is working with ideas which relate and reflect on our environment is very challenging. And I start with my body and then go on with materials. And these 2 projects, Sugar Instruments and this clay, hay, wheat instruments. Both are energy consuming but recyclable. Why is that? Because each instrument can only survive once. When they are being played or performed, the resonance inside the instrument breaks and sound eventually disappears. But when it breaks, I can still use it to make another one. And finding more ways of producing sound by exploring different materials' character and rethinking, experimenting with every aspect of materials is to reflect on the environment we live in and the idea of making new instruments in the future. And one of the key element is like just have to keep practicing, keep trying, like what I used to play the instrument. And thank you for listening. And there's a few links which relate to the talk I just gave. So if you have any question, you are welcome to contact me. Thank you.